monstrous massacre. The president went on to blame not the opposition, but foreign-backed fighters in Syria, who he says are spreading chaos. RT's Maria Finoshina says foreign intervention may be the ultimate goal.
10 days after the terrible massacre in the Syrian city of Hula, the world is still watching to see how this tipping point will shape the crisis. While there is still at least some hope of a peaceful solution, many analysts believe those hopes are fading fast.
The American, British and French push for military intervention in Syria is absolutely enormous. We've seen Hague, of course, William Hague, the British Foreign Secretary, calling for intervention. We've seen the new French president saying the same thing, the Americans obviously taking the lead.
The spectre of a military solution has returned after the Syrian regime was condemned internationally for the death of 108 people, half of whom were children, before an investigation into who was responsible was even launched.
They're all saying that the Assad regime is committing human rights abuses, and they repeat this message obsessively. I'm confident to predict that indeed it will remain fixed in people's minds and could well be used as a pretext.
And you don't have to look back too far to see where hasty judgments saw a rush to take up arms.
By the Kosovo War in 1999, it's exactly what happened. You had an allegation of a massacre, which was the village of Račak. You had a UN inquiry that was severely bullied by the U.S. ambassador that was leading the observation mission on the ground. You had claims that it was a brutal, unprovoked massacre of innocent civilians by government troops. Serbia was blamed, presented with an ultimatum in Rambouillet, and then bombed.
Back then, the Yugoslavian government, just like the Syrian one now, condemned militants for the killings, in this case blaming Albanian separatists from the Kosovo Liberation Army. An investigation was launched to find out whether the victims were innocent civilians, as the international community claimed, or whether the country's army had been battling professional fighters. 2 out of 3 forensic inquiries proved most of the casualties died in combat. The third report, by an EU team, has never been made public.
Interestingly enough, over the past couple of weeks, there have been reports of Syrian rebels, whoever they are, liaising with the ethnic Albanian Kosovo Liberation Army, the people who were basically the agents of NATO in the Kosovo War, basically training on, I don't know, they were saying they were training in democracy and human rights, but technically the only training that the KLA could have ever given anybody is how to fake a massacre in order to stage a war. And I believe that's exactly what's happening now.
But even with hindsight, after the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, or even the alliance's airstrikes in Libya last year, history isn't being prevented from repeating itself again and again. When these disturbing images from the Syrian village of Hula made world headlines, everybody agreed those who are guilty must be punished. But the reaction from the international community has been so swift and so coordinated, the risk is that punishment will come before even those who are truly responsible are exposed. And that would mean not just a loss of justice, but also a huge loss of life. Maria Finoshina, RT, Moscow.
Well, Neil Clark, a contributor to Britain's Guardian newspaper, says a major obstacle to Kofi Annan's peace plan is the virtual free rein given to the rebels by their backers.
We're reaching now the sort of crucial point of the whole affair now, and I think that the onus must be on the Western powers to sort of back down here, because, you know, let's face it, US, Britain, France, Saudi Arabia and Qatar do not want Kofi Annan's plan to succeed. It's the Syrian government that wants it to succeed, and Russia and China. And why isn't the plan working so far in bringing peace? Because the rebels are still fighting. They're still using arms. Terrorist attacks have taken place in Syria. And what are the Syrian government supposed to do in response? It seems now evidence is coming out of Hula that last week we were told it was a Syrian government. Now the evidence is not so clear. And the only way we can have a peaceful solution to this is if the Western powers and countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia rein in the rebels and say to them, look, stop this and stop supplying them with arms. So, it's up really to the people who are backing the violent rebels to rein them in.
Well, thousands of Lebanese troops have been deployed to Tripoli, the nation's second largest city, in an effort to stop clashes between pro- and anti-Assad groups. More than a dozen civilians have died there in recent days as a conflict from neighbouring Syria spills across the border. Sarah Marusek from America's Syracuse University believes the growing violence is being fueled by Gulf Arab states.
the regional countries are interfering in Syria, this easily becomes a regional conflict, and it's devastating for Lebanon, which has suffered enough already. So many years of civil war between 1975 and 1990, and now the violence is happening on a much more extreme level in the north, and Lebanese are getting nervous. They don't want to have to live through another civil war, and it seems like the international and foreign in the Gulf states are only encouraging the Lebanese to get more involved and to drag it into a civil war. And again, I think this is more a political agenda than anything else. This has to do with the resistance axis. This has to do with Hezbollah. This has to do with Iran and the West's determined attempt to undermine these players in the regional politics, because they know how popular they are and they know how powerful they are. And it's just going to make the whole region into a conflagration, a huge conflict. And this could be avoided if the Gulf countries step back, didn't get involved in Lebanon, didn't get involved in Syria, and if the West didn't instigate them to.
Well, coming up for you later in the programme, economic hardships move north. Thousands of Quebec students protest against a dramatic hike in tuition fees, which will double the cost of third-level education.